We're good? Thank you, everybody, for coming tonight. We're a packed house. Sorry we don't have enough chairs. We'll try to be quick. Let's please start with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I was behind you. Thank you for coming. Let's go ahead and start. We need to, before we approve the agenda, amend the agenda. So I would look for a motion to amend the agenda by deleting the executive session. And we need to add our update on the school calendar planning with the caveat that we'll probably be making some changes or adjustments to that in May. Could possibly.
We'll review it again in May.
Okay.
But it just needs an action.
An action item. Okay. Does that need to be part of the motion?
Yeah, it should be an action.
To make it an action item. Okay. So.
I can remember all that. I move that we amend the agenda to delete the executive session as well as making an action item towards the end
For the calendar.
for the calendar and possibly changes that will be done in May.
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. I would entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda unless there's any discussion on that.
I'll make a motion, we approve the consent agenda.
Do you have any questions?
I didn't really speak fast enough. I just want to make sure that on the consent agenda that includes D, the recommended teacher contract renewals, those are the ones that have.
That have a continuing contract that the principals are saying, we would like to renew these teachers.
Okay, so if there's anybody that maybe is in question,
Then
that'll
they are
be done
not, they are not
they're
on
not
the
on the
list.
list.
They'll be addressed as they finish up any plans that they have with their
Okay,
principals.
so then we may see that in May. as well.
There may be some that are on there that choose to leave. This is simply the principal saying, we want to renew these teachers.
Okay, all right,
All right.
I second.
Thank you. All those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Thank you. We do have one signed in visitor to speak, Mr. Brock. If you will come on up to the podium. Thank you for coming.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it. Let you guys go. Pam, I don't know if you've got one of these yet.
I have not. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Scott Brock, 9966 Thoroughbred Drive, Midland, Idaho, 83644. Chairman, Superintendent, members of the school board. Thanks for letting me speak today. I'm here for really what is it's a problem that's happening. Actually, I passed out. I gave you my notes.
Okay.
No, you didn't.
Oh, okay. Didn't want
So the problem I'm here today is about security. So I've had a few discussions. I think I've sent an email or two, and I think I've had a discussion or two with the school district over security. And as you can see throughout the world, nothing's getting better. So for every problem in the world, there are answers. I don't always have the answers to everything. I don't think nobody really does, but I think in this case, the question is, what are we doing and is it enough? And I've asked this question to superintendent. If an incident happens today at one of our schools, have we done enough? Can you look at yourself and say that you have done, as school board members, have you done enough to protect these children? So with that being said, there has been talks of providing a level of security to our campuses. I'm hoping that that proposal will move forward, and I'll brief you just a little bit on some of the proposed items that have been in discussion. And understand that this is not necessarily, we're not taking away anything from school resource officers. School resource officers serve a certain purpose, but the purpose that I'm proposing to fulfill has really one specific agenda, and that's preservation of life. And the proposal really doesn't have any restrictions in it within procedure from a department. So basically, it would be providing armed security to Milton School District 134. Security personnel would be on premises. I'm willing to work with the school board in any way, shape, or form on how we appear. This uniform that I'm wearing currently works. What I'm wearing today can be a security uniform. So there are a myriad of little issues that we're gonna have to have some back and forth with to see if we want to move forward with this proposal. But the bottom line is that what we can provide would be working with staff and administrators to ensure and improve access protocols and policies. I know you have some. I personally don't like them. I don't think they go to the degree that they need to. Work with staff and administrators to try to provide a safe and reassuring environment within the school. So I've heard this isn't an armed stormtrooper type situation. It's really not. So these are my children too. My kids go to the school. Coordinate and implement safety protocols that integrate local, state, and law enforcement agencies. So a combined effort coming from an expert level background. And work with staff and administrators to train employees on security issues to include early recognition, initial encounter, emergency medical, evacuation, accountability, and post-event. And so you might ask yourself, well, where does this guy come off, presenting himself for all that? And I will tell you that even though I do quite a few things within town, this is directly my wheelhouse. This is my background. This is what I do. I've done it at the highest level possible. To include nuclear security with the Department of Energy Q clearance. I've watched nuclear rods go into water. So I've been at that highest level. I've done contract security for multiple contract agencies, and I've contracted out for Department of State, Department of Justice, and to OGA, otherwise known as the CIA. I was a direct hire to the State Department under the Diplomatic Security Services as a security protective specialist. My job is to take diplomats to the most dangerous places on the planet and make sure they come home alive. And so in a nutshell, I'll tell you that my job is protection of people, places, and things. Sometimes it's intellectual property. Most of the time it's somebody with a pulse. And so I believe that what I'm proposing and hoping that we can kick this can down the road quickly is get some bodies that are the highest trained. If we're gonna do this, we want it to be the best. Twin Falls School District has done this, not quite to my caliber. So I'm working with multiple organizations within the state to be able to provide the highest level human beings to do the job that is needed. And without going into much graphic detail, there is a job that is needed, and it's to protect people. So it's not there's nothing glamorous about it. It's a dirty job. It's a dangerous job. And I have people willing to do it and willing to put their life on the line, guaranteed, no questions asked, for our children. The history of school incidences has shown that school resource officers have not been able to finish the job appropriately. And the one thing I want to leave in your mind, that for every 1 minute that it takes for a response, you typically lose a life. So those are your numbers. The book I wrote is right in front of you. There's some details in that book that kind of break down the idea of how we're going to propose this, how we're going to move forward on it. That's all I have for now. I think we're going to try to move. You guys, I'm available to you.
Thank you.
So I stand for questions.
Any questions?
So where is this proposal? Is it inside this or is it?
It is not.
There's, obviously there's
That's a book I wrote.
Yeah,
on
yeah,
school
yeah,
security.
yeah.
The proposal that I have forward, Mark has a copy of it.
Okay.
And I didn't know, we're trying to time everything to be within budget times, and there's a lot of mitigating factors that involve why we're just now getting to where we're at. So I've been trying to be very patient. You guys have a huge job to do. But the proposal is, in a nutshell, is providing one armed officer at each campuses, and I believe we have 6 campuses. And I can tell you that I can do it for less money with a higher trained individual than our law enforcement can provide for less money. And that's guaranteed fact. So my guys will be the highest trained. They will be, if you were to consider them on a law enforcement side, the qualifications and the training they would get would put them at a SWAT level.
And this is on the discussion items that we've got to have some discussion.
So I believe, yeah, it's in writing. And again, uniform, there's so many little things that we need to work out. What is the true scope of work? Are we breaking up fights at the school? Things like that, you know what I mean? And again, working in liaison and in concert with school resource officers. We don't have school resource officers for every campus. So again, for every minute that it takes a response, you're gonna lose a life. Fact. I can bring up every number in the book. So there are 11 rounds fired every 1 minute for every incident. So the bottom line is that we're gonna be the greatest deterrent on the planet. No one is gonna come to Middleton School District 134 with intent, because they will know that it's not gonna be a good end. So we're gonna take care of that. We're here to protect that.
You said you've been working with the state to get this, or you have worked with the state before? Is that what you were?
No, if I said working with the state.
For certifying your,
For
Getting
certification.
highly trained bodies and.
Yeah, so we'll be training as an independent company, and I have a list of the qualifications that will be there. So the state of Idaho, the city of Boise requires a certain licensing for security officers. Kenny County does not. The state legislature gives the school board the opportunity and the freedom to apply how a firearm is carried on the school. You guys have that right. You guys have the right to say which law enforcement can come on, and if you want, individual private security. So this will be a private security company. So we're working with the state. All I've done is contacted and gone through legislation to make sure that we're legal and that you guys have the approval. Mark understands all those things, and you do have state code that allows you to make these decisions unilaterally. You do not need oversight. They gave you a purposeful gray area to allow you to conduct safety at your own schools.
Okay, so this private company, is it your private company? Is it, oh, okay.
It is.
So it's not, okay.
And the reason why, I mean, again, this is my wheelhouse. Would I rather not have this problem? Would I rather do it with all the other things that I do? Of course. This need, and I've told this to Mark, if something happens at any one of our campuses here, knowing that I'm right here in town and I have no ability to do anything about it, it's just gonna be hard on me. So what I'm doing, there is no fiscal gain in this whatsoever. There really isn't. But we're trying to set a level. The money requested really just sets a level for me to bring in the best and to pay them well, to keep them happy within the school district and to make sure that everything is covered. So again, there'll be questions that will be brought up on uniform. Are we covering after school events? Basically, the proposal I broke down was for the 8.75 hours per day for 4 days for the length of 144 days, if I remember right, for school. So, and yes, on this side, my company has been in existence for almost 4 years now. It typically operates, what I do is I do some training of folks, and those are typically private individuals. And once a year, I have a non-disclosure for a very high-profile client that flies into Sun Valley that I do personal protection for. But understand that since my retirement out of the federal government, which was 2015, and I came back to Middleton, I've kind of stayed out of this, but the need is here. I'm tired of turning the TV on and seeing something happen, and unless this group right here can come up with a solution to not have that happen, I'm giving you me. And I have the ability to train and farm the right human beings. And again, I'm working with Mission 43, so there'll be veterans, there'll be some law enforcement guys, and who are eager to kind of get involved in this. And I can promise you, once you see the highlighted training regimen, there's nothing like it, zero. It will be the highest training, this will be the highest training you're ever gonna see.
And you're gonna.
And we're gonna talk about
We're gonna
the
talk about-
process that we work through to
The
create.
legalities of it, as far as your guys' side, I have no clue. I'm presenting what I can do for you and how I can bring it. We're insured, we're licensed, we're all those things. But that side of it, I don't have any clue how we work through those hurdles. But I'm just telling you, we're willing to get to the point where we can figure it out. We're flexible.
Thank you.
Yep.
Yes.
Appreciate it, Scott. Thank you.
All right, let's move on to discussion items. Discussion item A, yearbook overnight trip to Idaho Journalism Conference in Tamarack.
And Elise Murphy is here. She can give a brief description of what that trip will be. And then if you have any questions for me or her, that'd be great.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm Elise Murphy. I'm the art teacher at the high school, and I also took over yearbook this year. So the Idaho Journalism Conference is a trip that Ms. Murphy had taken the yearbook staff on in the past. It's put on by our Walsworth reps, so I would like to take my staff to it. Basically, like, I give you guys the itinerary of what we do each day. And because you're just gonna learn more in depth about writing and photography, graphic design, and bond a bunch, basically.
Any questions?
No, I really liked what you explained on your request too, as to what was gonna happen. Thank you.
Good?
Good.
Thank you very much.
Well,
Thank you. And the vote will be later. They have to do the action item later, so.
All right, we will move on to discussion item B, the DECA overnight trip request to Orlando.
And we have Mr. Weiniger here to talk about that.
Very good.
Mr. Weiniger and friends.
All right.
Yeah, I brought a few friends.
Oh, yay.
So this is part of our DECA group. And
Like you're missing
we're taking to
Toby and
Orlando
the Moody Boys.
in a couple weeks. It's our national trip. I was really impressed at how, everyone was able to compete well at the state level. So we are asking for approval to go to a national conference in Orlando. And all of these will be competing in different business events, presenting marketing plans or innovation plans or role plays, things like that. Great experience. So this guy here, his dad was a member of DECA. So it's got some legacy there. But anyway,
Cool.
good looking group.
Well, congratulations, you
Yes.
guys. That's exciting. Are you excited?
Yes.
And all of you have also taken certain places as far as earning awards.
Yeah, the state level, Warren and Hayden participated in it's called a role play event where they have to be good presenters, think on their feet, and have a pretty good business knowledge. And they also take a big exam before, so their event was in buying and merchandising. These two girls, Carla and Ella, will be presenting an innovation plan. They want to create some new makeup products. And Christian will be competing with Wyatt in the integrated marketing campaign. And Kyle will actually be attending a leadership seminar.
Okay.
Out of all the members that we've had attend state, majority of our members made in the top 3, and we've had about 3 groups out of all ours reach first place in the state.
Very good.
That's great.
So we're doing busy fundraising. One of the things they're helping with is a concert on May 4th. I wanted to invite all of you, give you a ticket.
Why, thank you.
Well, I've
You guys
noticed,
are all invited to the concert.
I noticed there was a car show in November. Are you is that something that would go on every year or
That's
is
the
that?
hope, yeah, that's the hope.
Okay,
And
that's
that's
great.
That was
two of the other DECA members that aren't here tonight who will be presenting that.
the Moody Boys and
Yeah.
Toby, know
Okay.
those boys. Very good.
Thank
Thank
you.
you very, very
Thank
much.
you.
Thank
And
you.
congratulations.
Thanks for coming.
All right, let's move on to discussion item C, the printer contract renewal proposal. Mrs. Krantz.
And I'm gonna sit there and get it a little bigger for you.
Hi, good evening. So June 30th brings to close our last current copier printer agreement that we had in place. Over the last few months, since just after Christmas, we've been looking at, number one, identifying our needs across all school buildings, solidifying that, and then reaching out to individual vendors to ask for a quote. All 4 of these vendors replied. It is on the state purchasing contract, or there's one on a cooperative. If we go down another path for a product, it's on a cooperative agreement, so there's no need to go out for bid or anything. A simple informal quote is enough. So this is what we gathered. You can see there's a variation across all 4 vendors for the lease payment itself, which is monthly. And then the service contract is the maintenance agreement that we have on all of the equipment. So overall, our recommendation is that we go into contract with Valley Office for 5 years.
And that's who we've currently been with.
Yes, it is who we currently have a relationship with.
Okay, that's,
Any
I
questions?
probably should, what's a duplexer?
My understanding is it's a heavy duty copier for thicker paper that they use at the elementary
Oh.
buildings. That's why we only have
Like
3
for
cardstock.
cardstock and
paper.
construction, okay. Thank
Any-
you.
Any questions there? Looks good.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, let's move on to discussion item D with Mrs. Goodson.
Hello, everybody. Last month I reported out on our iReady data, and this month I've got, our iStation and ISAT interim data to present to you. Keep in mind that these are our formative data points that we use throughout the year to check on student progress and determine how we need to respond and make adjustments. So I'll start off, which one? You pick one. Okay. That's fine. We can start with iStation. We're good. What I gave you was the August to March comparison, just so that you can see, again, green is tier 1, yellow is tier 2, and red is tier 3. So what we noticed from August, can you get both of those in the same window? I know. I might have to squint them. I am gonna have to squint. I'm gonna have to get my cheater paper out
You're
here.
totally good.
From August to March, kindergarten has gone from 57% to 60%. First grade's grown by 1% proficient from 55 to 56. Second and third grade, we're noticing decreases. So that's where, in reaching out to administrators and sitting down, we're really gonna tease out the data. They finished up this assessment just before spring break. So we've been back a couple of weeks. We really want to tease out the data because we were showing at a higher proficiency level in December when I reported out last than we are right now. It doesn't mean that we're not growing. What it means is that you need to maintain a certain amount of growth to maintain proficiency.
Mhm.
So those cut scores change every single month. So those are the pieces that we need to dig into and work. Administrators have met with their grade level teams to start talking through those pieces. I will also say that in March, there was a technical glitch on the iStation side where they were down a few days. So we had to extend the window out. So that put a few kinks in things. April on a first grade level so far is looking better than what it did in March, but it's something that we keep a close eye on.
Good.
In that regard. The final assessment, or I guess I would say the summative at the end of the year will be in March or in May. That will be reported to the state, and then they will give us our August to May comparison in that regard. So
Okay.
are there questions on iStation that I can answer for you?
I think I'm gonna go back to the last time when we
Yeah.
talked about this. You had mentioned that there is summer school for high school and middle school.
Yes.
I asked about elementary and really kind of heard that it was done, that there really wasn't any.
Currently for elementary, the only elementary school is our migrant summer school. Sorry,
So
our summer
after,
school.
I mean, there's after school things on a
Yeah.
weekly basis, but have we looked into some sort of summer school, especially with the money that was given for the COVID?
I know we've had discussions about a ramp up to school pace. And the timing of that, because staff returns so early, in that regard, and when the timing of that could be put into place. Do you have anything else you'd like to add?
Only that we started those conversations with our administrators to see what we feel like we could reasonably put together for those students.
Okay.
The majority of the funds from the ESSER dollars that you
Yes.
referred to, those are primarily being used for that after-school program. As we talked to our administrators, and this would have been not last fall, but the fall before, when we were initially talking about how we were going to use those funds to help students who were falling behind or had missed gaps and things. The administrators felt the pressing need was having something to go to after school so that they could hit right when the student is missing, as they see something missing, they can address it right away. And so they look to have that after school program and dedicate those funds in that space. But as we're looking at the options for a summer school, it's whether it would be what we're trying to debate right now is whether that ramp up to school would be a more effective use of the funds or something that extends the school year for some of those elementary students.
And I know it's-
Ramp up. I like the idea of a ramp up
Yeah,
even.
I could see that as well. I just feel like that
Retention.
you're seeing a little bit of drop from the 61 down to 56 as far as tier 2, or excuse me, the tier 1. I just feel like at elementary level, if they had that extra push.
And that's why we've tried to focus it on because what you're comparing are two formative
Right.
tests in the middle of the year. And so having that after school option allows like when we get that kind of information,
Okay.
we don't sit on it until summer, we can address it right
Right
then
then.
with extra
So
help.
what sort of data are the after school
After school with
programs
the
taking?
tutor.
I could,
Homework.
do you want to?
Tutor.
They'll
After
use
that.
this data and their iReady data and their classroom data to determine how to group their students and really try to intervene in those skills that they're working on in the classroom.
So mainly which tiers go to after school program? Is it what,
We would be looking at tier 2 and tier 3
and tier 2? Okay,
as having the opportunity to attend those pieces.
okay. Do you have many of the kids that went from tier 1 that maybe dropped down to tier 2?
I would need to run that data specifically in that regard. I have not run it at the district
Okay.
level in that capacity.
At each of the schools, is there someone in charge
They've
of
got-
the
Mostly
after?
that's run by the administrators, yeah.
So I can
The
talk
after
to the
school, yeah,
principals?
the principals are the ones that manage the after school program.
Okay, great, thank you.
You're welcome. Anything else on that one? Okay, let's look at ISA interim. So the last time this is administered for our high school students, grades 9 through 11. So they took this one in August and then again in February. And we can start off, that's fine, with ELA. Yep. So again, a formative measure, something that's changed on the state level for this year is that the only students who will need to take the summative ISAT are this year's 11th grade students who did not meet the 11th grade cut score last year. And that is because the state changed the ISAT grade level from 10th grade last year to 11th grade this year. So to not have them repeat an ISAT back to back, they allowed those students to essentially bank their cut score from their 10th grade year, provided that they met the 11th grade proficiency.
So what you'll see on the ELA side. I just got nothing forward. So this is ninth grade. Just in glancing at it, you can see that it stayed pretty even, I guess I would say, from fall to the winter piece. If you want to go to 10th grade, I believe this is the one that we'll see. And now I'm going to flip flop this on you, Cindy. Level 4 is in exceeds.
Okay.
Level 3 is on grade level. Level 2 is approaching and level 1 is below. So it's just the opposite of what we discussed with iStation. So you're gonna see that we had an increase in those level 1 students on the ELA end. I was in conversation with Principal Roth today to talk through, okay, how are we addressing this and what have we done? And really needing to go over that department level data. On this part, if you'll scroll down to the 11th grade. Again, you'll see another increase in that below grade level. So we've got some pieces that we definitely need to work through on that end, because this should definitely feed into what I would say would be like our RTI systems, our early warning system. So when we see this, how are we responding in that regard? And is this a reflection of the classroom data that we're seeing? Like, are we triangulating our data points? So if a student scores a level 1 and they're getting an A in class, where are we misaligned somewhere? So it gives us that opportunity to have those conversations all the way around.
The other thing that we're looking at is the standardization of how it's administered, because right now these are interim tests that each teacher simply gives to their class. But if the setup or the atmosphere or the schedule is different, it can have an effect on how it's being scored. And so we want to make sure that there's some standardization there, not on how it's being scored, but how it's being
The administration.
administered.
Administered.
The interim ISAT.
So that's the
This is
difference.
the regular ISAT, there's some strict protocols that have to be followed.
Yeah.
The interim doesn't have those, but we are looking at how our teachers have been administering it to see if there's an issue,
There's a variable.
if there's a variance between how one teacher does it compared to another, and looking at how students are doing in one teacher's classroom. And if we're seeing improvement in one classroom, but not in another, how is that being addressed?
So when did this interim thing start?
So for the high school, it started last school year. The interims have always been there. But as a district, we use MAP, the NWEA MAP assessment for several years, grades 9 through 11. And then with the state's funding that came through for learning loss, part of their requirement was that we complete the interim assessments. So last year, we did one in August and then another one in December. And that was how the state was gauging effectiveness of learning loss pieces.
So I look at what you just said to me, and correct me if I'm wrong, that this interim that's given by the teacher and every teacher, which are all totally different, and there's not strict guidelines, how can you compare? I mean, do you even compare? It's an apples and oranges
You can
thing,
compare teacher to teacher
but
more
not,
effectively. And
Okay.
that's what this year's data helped us parse out, is
okay,
that the teacher can compare from teacher to teacher, but to try and say all of the students compared to all of the students from the last time,
Right.
because they've switched teachers, then it would
It's
change
different.
that.
It is.
Okay.
So
We
it's
wanna
one-
make
it's
sure
one
that we're
variable that
consistent.
we need to investigate.
yeah.
When you're trying to isolate, okay, why this huge, I guess, gain in level 1 students? Why are we seeing it increase when we should actually be seeing it decrease? And then our level 4s and 3s increase.
Okay.
Yeah,
I think I need to look into it a little bit more.
Yeah.
Okay,
I'm happy to sit down anytime.
okay, thank you.
And then on the math end, we see the biggest change actually in those 9th grade students, where we started out at 12% at level 1, and now we're at 43% at level 1. So again, it's where Superintendent Gee was saying, we can start looking and saying, okay, is it some of our testing environment? Are we seeing discrepancies in teacher to teacher?
And that's where we start to dig. 11th grade, you'll actually see, 10th grade, we've seen growth in that 10th grade class, which is the trajectory that we want to be seeing it on. And then if we go down to 11th grade, we see some growth there as well on that. And so in math, really more concerning on the 9th grade end. In ELA, we've got 2 grade levels that we need to take a deep dive into.
Thank you.
Questions?
It sounds
Later.
like you're on it. It sounds like you're on it.
Yes, we are.
You're as concerned as we are.
Yes.
Let's move on to discussion item E.
Yeah, so
Might as
we'll
well
take the
just stay there.
assessment hat off, and we're gonna put the curriculum hat on. Okay, so it's been a while since we visited about the math adoption. That is the curriculum adoption that we are in this year. So I kind of want to recalibrate us ahead of you guys taking a vote on this as a board. We divide our curriculum resource adoptions up into 3 phases. So math this year was in that first phase where we're reviewing the materials, reviewing our data, and selecting it. CTE this year was in phase 2. If you'll remember, they adopted last year. And then in phase 3, we have really 3 different clusters: social science, health, PE, fine arts, and humanities. They'll go into phase 1 next year. So that's the whole cycle piece. And then ELA and science come behind that. So that's where we are as a district in the cycle. I think something that has changed from back when I was in school is we could have textbooks that would last us 20 years, right? The fee structure now for curriculum or resource companies is really on a contractual basis. So you sign in for a contract for a certain amount of time and then it expires, so you have to re-up at that point in time. So when we look, if we go to the next one, when we look at the process that we followed, it's the same process that we have followed for all of our other curriculum adoptions. It starts with the administrative commitment, which is really when the board approves a budget and says, okay, here's how we want to move forward. And then we identify a steering committee. This year, this changed as far as the state of Idaho was concerned, because now we have 50% of parents sit on this committee. We have an organizational and purpose meeting, and what this was for our math adoption committee was really honing our vision, and it's what do we want for our math students? When they leave us, from a 12 to K perspective, what do we want them to know and be able to do? And we spent a solid day discussing that and building a rubric so that we could all look at materials through the same lens. Then we acquired, reviewed, piloted the materials, and then the steering committee. We met last week to assimilate the reviews and talk through the final pieces, which brings us to step 6, which is tonight. So it's been a very solid process that we go through in terms of making sure that we dot our I's and cross our T's in preparation for this. The next slide will show you, so when we look at committee and making sure that we have enough input, right? We're making a really large decision as far as K-12 is concerned. So this is how it all feeds in. All of our math teachers have had the opportunity to provide feedback and input. It started last spring when we sent out surveys about our current curriculum. And we've sent out several surveys since then to say, okay, what are the strengths? What are the gaps? What are you needing as a teacher to have resources that can help support you in the classroom? We sent some math teachers to a conference to see outside of our district, outside of Idaho, what are other districts doing and how are they approaching it? And then we've got curriculum leads and department heads that we use as a think tank group as well. All of that funnels up to our adoption committee where we had 8 parents, 8 teachers for a total of 16 committee members. So it was a rather large committee to navigate from a K-12 standpoint. The next slide will show you exactly who those committee members are. We had a phenomenal team. I want to give them kudos. They spent many days and hours and emails and visits, all in the interest of what's best for our students and where we want to see them go. It is not easy for parents to take a day off of work and spend it with us talking math, but they did it and they provided excellent input. So we're just really appreciative of their time. They felt the weight of the recommendation that they're bringing forward. Okay, which brings me to the recommendation of where they had landed. They really analyzed the data heading into this and where our strengths and our gaps were, because really the question is, do we need a switch? Do we need to look at something different? And where they landed was that some of the gaps that they were seeing, I'll take elementary, for example, with number sense. We're seeing transcend all the way to high school. So we need something that will help us. And if there are gaps that are so large that we're filling, and maybe our current teachers have filled it, but you know that we're getting larger. And so do we need every brand new teacher who comes in to continue to figure out ways to fill the gaps? We have to have a guaranteed and viable curriculum for all of our students. That's one of the things that we need to assure. So with that being said, on a whole, elementary landed at, for a core curriculum, Bridges, which actually runs PK, pre-kindergarten, to grade 5. We have about 40 pre-kindergarten students. So about 8 to 10% of a class, of a graduating class, that will benefit from that as well. As far as using Bridges for the intervention, number corner we've already adopted. And then we want to look at something that came really clear to the committee in discussion was that our iReady, the instructional licenses, as part of an intervention to keep those for our students, those work in conjunction with our iReady diagnostic in that regard. And then the secondary level on a whole is looking at Carnegie is what they would like to recommend. And they felt that in looking at CPM and in looking at what Carnegie had to offer, that they liked the forward trajectory of Carnegie. CPM has not changed much in the past 6 years, and their forecast was not. It's going to give them some tools to be able to look at data differently than what CPM was able to provide them, so they feel like it will help them pinpoint interventions better for students and how to help them in the classroom. From a 6-12 intervention standpoint, looking at big ideas, this would be for our alternative school and our special ed, which is exciting because I don't think we've had something consistent on that intervention in 6-12.
Wow.
And so it can increase the collaboration between them. They're gathering the same data, and big ideas really allows them to start at a certain entry point for students and work on those skills. Bridges and Carnegie have what I would call like a spiraling piece. So students learn something and they're constantly then implementing and applying it. Big ideas with our intervention students and our SPED students will take a skill at a time and let them hone that so that they can become proficient in that regard. And then you'll see our honors track. I'm going to backtrack now. Our honors track would like to stay with CPM because they feel like that really benefits those students in that regard. Cengage for college algebra, that's approved by the college, that's for dual credit. So we have to work with our colleges to determine what we need to use on their end. And for consumer math, we've been looking with those new financial literacy pieces that we need to implement. And Stukent, on both the personal and the business side, and that is not a typo, I would like to tell you, I did not misspell Stukent.
I had to squint to look.
About this. For them to be able to harness that, that's got a lot of different simulations in it. So it's gonna be really hands-on for those students. And then the Academy for the applied math course, this is the course they take to meet their 6 math credits for graduation. The teacher wants a set of these practical books that all talk about math in various careers. And so that teacher, depending on the class that she has, it could be varied students. So this is gonna give her the flexibility that if she has a lot of students interested in construction, she can cater it that way. If she's got students interested in nursing, she can cater it that way. So really she's just looking at a teacher set for that so she can build it around their needs.
Paige,
Yes,
can I say, are you
yes,
down to the bottom?
I am down at the bottom.
Okay. Having been the board member that was assigned to meet with this committee, I have to tell you, they did a tremendous amount of work and worked very hard to really look at each of the curriculums, get the rubric down, to look at, what do they need, what they'd been using, and then what the other resources were that were being offered. Having been also at this last meeting, I was very, very impressed in the way a lot of them, I could tell they didn't really want to like something, because, do what you like to do or what you're used to doing with kids. But the fact that you had them take the actual A lesson and go for 4 days and teach it, I was just amazed at the ones that decided that even though there is a lot of prep time, I will put that out there. I'm sure there's a lot of teachers that may agree, but I think that they realize that the program that's being requested, or actually the curriculum that's being requested, is so much better for kids. It's hands-on. There's a lot of manipulatives that they really can use throughout the lessons. But I think they sold themselves on it by teaching it for those 4 days. And the strengths and the gaps and what all the teachers said about the program, the curriculum that they're wanting to look at and have purchased, it was eye-opening. And I think eye-opening to them as well, because you do get set in your ways, and looking at something new means extra work. And the comments that they made, that kids were making, oh, I understand that now, or they were just, I like this. They were inspired themselves by what the kids were saying. So having been on that committee, I applaud them, you, Paige, as well, as organizing all that. And I think you did an excellent job.
Thank you.
Are you gonna talk the different funding pieces?
Yeah, if you want to.
No, you can go ahead. I just.
So we've broken this out into 3 different funding pieces. One is the normal textbook fund that we're typically used to taking these out of. We do have some ESSER funds where we can pull the intervention materials out of those dedicated funds, and we would look at pulling the Math iReady instructional licenses out of the classroom technology funds. So we're able to leverage the various funding sources that we have to get this working for students. I know that it's a large price tag, and I don't take that lightly at all. Will you go to the next one? I know Alicia's smiling. I don't take it lightly at all, because I went through and I'm trying to find a way to show you what we have cost per student per year when we really break it down, because we're adopting for 6 years, and this is pre-K through 12, and this is special education, interventions, everything. I took the last time we adopted was in 2016, and I've added up all the costs. There was a $500,000 budget at that point in time. And since then, we had to spend $261,000 more as we grew, as we increased teachers and all that. So the total cost of that curriculum adoption ended up making it $31 per student per year for math curriculum. When I look at what we have on the quotes listed that I presented to you, it's a larger dollar amount. The enrollment number I did increase 3% over where we're at this current year. And the reason for doing that is because in order to order and have materials and not have students waiting, we need to have stock on hand. Otherwise, we've been in procurement issues just like everybody else has. It can be 6 to 8 weeks before we get items. We're looking for the next adoption currently at $35 per student per year over the 6 years. So.
I actually
That
got on and
helped me.
looked at Bridges and played with
Did
it
you?
today. Yeah, I liked it.
Yeah. Well, the parent component was one piece that they talked a lot about.
Yeah, there's things you can get on there and utilize.
Yeah.
To help, so.
And as far as looking at the prep time is, I don't
Yes.
know if you want to bring up
Yeah, I
the
can.
fact.
I can talk to that. So
Okay.
a lot of the teachers did express concerns about with the adoption of Bridges about how much prep time, because there's a lot of manipulatives and classroom materials that kind of have to be assembled. And it's a lot of front loading, meaning you do it the first time and then you won't have to do it again in the next 5 years. But to help with that, we were already working through a plan to do a lot of that this summer. Group of employees come together just for the purpose of putting these things together for the teachers so that they don't have to do them week by week, getting that ready.
I would come.
Some teachers have expressed that they would like to do that themselves for that, just so they get to know the materials. We can allow that to happen. We're also in the professional development in those first few weeks, that first week of school before the kids come. We've got some plans to give them professional development, but it'll take a little bit of time away from them in prepping for their classes to get ready. So teachers that want to take advantage of it, will pay them for a day. We're also getting rid of a lot of the district training so that they don't have to do district training on top of the math training. So just to make some of that prep work a little bit easier. But with any adoption, it's a change, it's new materials. There's going to be things that you have to do the first time that you won't have to do for the years that come.
Thank you.
Questions? All righty, thank you guys.
Thank you. Let's move on to discussion item F.
Okay, so school security planning, as Mr. Brock noted in his comments earlier, this is something that we've been looking at over the last several months. We were waiting to see what our budget would be for the coming year to address this. But what I would like to ask of the board is essentially anything that I would like to give a proposal in May or June, depending on how long it takes to put it all together, of what we as a district could pursue. Now, Mr. Brock has given a lot of information about how we could put some of these things together. Well, what would be required for us as a school district, besides the budgeting for any additional type of security for our schools, would be additional policy. If they are not school resource officers, the district would have to create a policy that would allow for someone besides a law enforcement officer to carry a firearm on campus. And so there are some policies out there. I've been a part of districts that have had to go through those kind of things. And so I've got some knowledge that I can bring to that, bring our attorneys in. Additionally, we have our district safety in emergency operations team. They have been starting to work on this as well, to give the input on the types of what types of services we want to see from this kind of proposal. And so as I come to you, we'll put this proposal together that will kind of show how we could provide this additional security for our students. And there's nothing really to vote on tonight, but are there any specific items that you as a board would want me, besides what we've already talked about, to make sure and address and bring as I do that for you as a board?
So what you're saying is, and if they're not an SRO, if they're just someone carrying and they are highly trained,
Mm-hmm.
then we would have to come up with some sort of
We have to have a policy
policy.
that would allow for that to
Yep.
happen.
Okay,
And like I said, there's already work that's been done on that. It's not like we'd have to
Right.
be creating something new, but really what we've got to do is essentially with those policies, you have to say what kind of firearm is allowed, what kind of training would have to be certified for a person to carry that, how, and then the process of verifying those things, process of making sure that of how it's going to be carried within the school, how those people that are carrying would interact with students, would interact with staff members, those kind of things would all have to be laid out in policy. Like I said, I have some model policies that we can work from on that.
Well, before we even go to policy though, we got to get down to the nitty gritty on what it is.
Yes, exactly. And that's the first
Under the
picture.
cross, what is it?
Right.
You know,
To give you an example, Twin Falls, last fall, put together a proposal where they would have SROs, school resource officers, in the middle and high schools and throughout their district, and then private security, armed security in all of their elementary schools. That was kind of their overarching vision of how they wanted to increase the level of security at all of their schools. So what we would be doing, working together with our emergency operations team, is putting together what we would like to see. That's the first proposal. And then once we have that proposal and you as a board feel comfortable, then we start writing policy to meet that. But it also means we create a budget that allows for that to happen as well.
Okay,
To go
so-
quickly.
You're working with the emergency operations.
Yeah, with the
To do this.
emergency operations team.
So are we able to see his proposal or?
Yeah,
is
I
that
can forward-
Down the road?
I can
Like
forward
May?
Mr. Brock's proposal, but we have to, as a school entity, what we'd have to make sure of is that we're giving others opportunities to say, we could also provide that service.
Yeah.
It's,
Yes.
we have to put that kind of thing out there and then as a board, give that. But we want to create what we want to see first and then put that
Exactly.
out.
Okay.
And again, Mr. Brock has been gracious to offer his expertise in helping put some of these things together. And so we'll work with that. And then the goal is to have this in place for start of school in the fall. Any other questions on that? If not, we'll be getting to work.
Awesome, thank you. Let's move on to discussion item G, Mrs. Krantz.
Just for an update, I have created the proposed budget timeline for the fiscal year 2024. It is guided per Idaho Code 33801. So just like last year, we have to have our letter to the assessor's office by the last Friday in April, which is the 28th. We'd like in May to have a budget workshop with our trustees to answer all the questions on the specifics that you have. May 30th by noon, I will submit the published budget worksheet to the Idaho Press Tribune, which has to be published twice, once on June 3rd, once on June 10th, and then on the 12th, which is our June regular meeting, at 6 p.m., we'll go ahead and do our public hearing. And then immediately following, we can continue into our regular meeting. Any questions?
What's the date of our May meeting? Could we do it before that? Would that be easiest for you than this whole separate date?
To meet prior?
The public budget hearing? Doesn't give me enough time. We're just gonna.
Does that not give you enough time? Okay.
I need more time, yes.
No, Alicia, you're amazing. You can do the hard things. I'm just kidding.
That's May.
May 8th is the.
Sorry. Oh, I didn't realize it was May. Sorry,
And then June 12th.
just kidding. Thank you. All right, let's move on to discussion item H, administrative changes.
Okay, so, and this is not something necessarily that we have to, that is voted on, but I wanted to make sure that you as a board felt comfortable moving forward with these, my proposed changes administratively. These are positions that are more rearrangements than they are new positions. But the first one, we've talked about the community school and that we're pursuing the creation of that community school. Part of that requires having a dedicated director or collaborator, coordinator for that program. And we do receive some grant funding that would help pay for a portion of that. And so what we've looked at is the possibility of moving Charlie Watkins from her current position, which is special ed. She's over counselors, she's over the social workers, the psychologists, and pulling off the piece that is the special ed director. It's the one that would make the most sense to pull out as its own position. And then adding the community school director portion to her current responsibilities. So she would have responsibility for the community school and all the parts that go in with that, all of our counselors, nurses, and the psychologists and social worker. And any additional social workers that we might be able to add. And then she would be responsible for coordinating with all of the outside agencies for all of the services that we bring in. So that would be what her role would be, and then we would open up a new position as a special ed director. Again, that's one that is very commonly known. We wouldn't have to be trying to describe to people what that looks like. And so that would be the first. Any questions on that position or concerns with moving forward that way? Okay, the next one is a federal programs director, and most school districts have a federal programs director. What we have right now is 4. And we have 4 different people that are doing pieces of that. Lisa Pennington, Paige Goodson, Alicia Krantz, and Cindy Hutchinson. They all are doing different pieces of that. What I'd like to propose is pulling all those together into one, and this is our Title I, which works with reading and math for low-income students, the Title II, which is professional development, Title III, which is your migrant education and English language learner population, and then Title IV, which doesn't have a specific group, but are federal funds that need to be managed across the district. So my proposal would be to pull all of those pieces and place them with Cindy Hutchinson, who is currently doing a portion of. During our recent audit, Cindy gathered a lot of additional information regarding the federal programs, and has a lot of the contacts with the state that we need already, that she's developed. And so what we'd like to propose is for the coming school year to make her our federal programs director, pulling all of those responsibilities from these other employees, allowing them then to better serve students, better support our staff, because they don't have these pieces going. Any concerns moving forward with either of those? No. Okay, well, we will move forward and we'll post those. Well, I've broached the topic with both of those employees, and they're willing to do so. And so we'll get all those pieces moved and post our special ed director position tomorrow.
Perfect, thank you. Let's move on to an update on the academy principal.
Okay, as I had mentioned to you as a board in an email, that Mr. Croft has, or Dr. Croft has received an offer to be the superintendent of Payette School District, and he has accepted that, and so he is leaving to be that superintendent, and we wish him the best, and certainly just publicly, he's not here, but certainly really want to thank Dr. Croft for what he's done with the academy and the leadership that he's provided, not just there, but with the district leadership team as a whole. But we do need to move forward, and so what we've done is as soon as he let us know, we posted that job. We've received 12 applications for that job and closed that last Thursday. Today, I met with the committee, which is made up of a parent and teachers from the academy, as well as Mrs. Pennington. They have the applications now. We're going to be working together as a group to create our interview list. The plan is to interview on April 20th and have a proposal to you for our May 14th.
Perfect.
So, and we do have good, very qualified candidates, so both in district and out of district for that.
Thank you.
Any questions on that? Okay.
All right, let's move to discussion item J, an update on teacher negotiations.
So with teacher negotiations, the main thing is we're going to get started with those now that the legislative session has ended. We have our post-legislative tour at the end of this week, which gives us the data that we need to be able to create budgets and talk about our salaries and different options for the teachers. For tonight, the biggest thing is we need to assign a board member to be a part of that committee. The way that the negotiated agreement is written, there has to be one board member.
Do you want to do it, Derek?
No.
I'll do it.
So
Jake already told me.
Pam has
to make whatever.
been assigned. So our goal is to get those negotiations done before the end of the school year. So I'll just be keeping you updated as we go through the process.
Thank you. All right, let's move on to K, an update on the school calendar.
All right, can you bring that calendar up? We have been meeting with the school calendar committee. And what you see there is what we would propose. I just want to go over some, it really is for the most part, a copy of what we did this year. Just shifted up the dates to match the right calendar. But I wanted to go through, we made a few adjustments and we want to make sure. Last year, we had made some adjustments with the secondary schools, middle school and high schools, to go away from the traditional parent-teacher conference, which was not creating a lot of, we weren't getting a lot of parents coming to those parent-teacher conferences. And so we tried to change it to more of a student orientation, trying to reach out to parents early to give them the information they needed so that they could take that back to their students. That didn't quite go as we had hoped as either. So this year they wanted to adjust that, one, by changing the timing. They felt like part of it was we waited till too long into the semester to do that. And so we will be looking at on August 9th, having a secondary parent orientation from 4 to 7 in the evening. So that's middle school and high school. And then hey, it's me. Okay. K-5 open house will continue to do on the Thursday of that week. 6 and 9, so 6th grade and 9th grade orientation as well. Those will happen during the day, and that's been how we've been handling those. But then there'll also be a parent engagement night, and that's going to take on different looks at different schools. And this will just be at the secondary schools. It could be students presenting their work. It could be meeting with parents. It could be all kinds of different options, but each school will be responsible for creating that opportunity for parents to get in and see what's happening in the schools. Biggest thing is trying to create a relationship and where parents are coming in. And so that's what the committee has recommended for this year. We are going to establish a few minimum expectations for the elementary spring parent-teacher conference. The date will remain the same, but each school kind of approached it their own way this year, and all of them worked out well. But what we found were some pretty consistent things that we would want to do each time. And so parents, any of the students who are testing in tier 2 or 3 for any of those math or reading, we would be inviting those parents. And this is the one that would happen on February 29th.
Leap year?
Oh yeah, on leap year day. That'd be great. All the parents of students who are testing in tier 2 or 3 for any subject would receive a personalized invitation to come in. In the fall, we try to get all parents in at the elementary level, but in the spring, we try to focus it more towards those parents that have students that are struggling. So those would get a personalized invitation, while we would still invite all parents who want to come in to come in. So we'll provide it, any parent who wants to come in would be able to, but we would make sure that those tier 2 and 3 students would get the specific invitation. If we have a professional development on March 8th that is listed, the main thing there is not a date change, but how we're going to handle that professional development. We have to change how we do it, the location primarily, because our high school is actually hosting state debate and speech
Oh, cool.
on that weekend. So we thought that was a neat thing, but we can do it at other buildings. And then finally, 2 things that aren't associated with the calendar per se is that we're going to produce a teacher calendar that gives the teachers specific hour expectations, because there's a lot of questions that aren't necessarily answered here, but parents don't necessarily need to know all of those things.
Right.
I mean, they're welcome to, it'll be available, but it'll be mainly for the teachers. And then we plan to have a draft of the 24-25 calendar in the fall. And then as we will go into the spring, what we would plan to do at the time when we do our calendar is actually do a 2-year calendar. So we would do the following year and then the one that comes after that. We often have parents, before we're able to get the calendar
Thank you.
set,
Yeah.
asking mainly begin date, end date, spring break.
It's
you
for
know.
vacations,
Yeah,
yeah.
and so they're trying to plan those, and so that'll help us, and that'll help us be ahead of the game as well. So those are the, and besides that, it pretty much is a template of what we did this last year, and we received some pretty good feedback from that, so.
That's good.
Well, I truly appreciate that you're doing that parent engagement night. I think it's needed.
Yeah, I think so as well. Any questions or concerns with it? So what we haven't been able to do is get this, we just got this finalized this afternoon. We haven't been able to get it out to all of the staff members to get any feedback. It wouldn't, I can't see anything that would change necessarily those hard, fast dates, but more about details. So what I would just plan on is, if you as a board approve this calendar tonight, then in May, if there were any concerns that came back from the teachers, we would present those to you as a board in May, just so that if any minor adjustments needed to be made, we could do so.
Is it gonna be given out
Yes,
on the website or to
Yes.
parents?
yes.
Yeah.
As soon
So
as,
they're
tomorrow, we'll get it all
Okay.
posted on.
So if we hear something from them as well.
Absolutely, that would
Okay.
work.
We did that last year, didn't we?
Okay.
I thought so. All right, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank
Let's
you.
move on to discussion item L, social media lawsuit participation proposal.
Okay, so, as you remember, we were participating in the nationwide lawsuit against some of the vaping companies.
Mhm.
Juul, and I can't remember, I think it's Altria that works with, Philip Morris. We've seen part of that go through. The district last month approved that, settlement, with Juul. The lawsuit with Altria will continue. But that same group, that is looking at the impact that advertising has on students in terms of our social medias. And so it's not that we're trying to, or we're advocating to remove social media or get rid of social media, but some of the targeted marketing that they do is targeted to try and get students into unhealthy social media habits. And so the lawsuit is, again, one that is happening at the national level and would try to help stop those things from happening, provide remuneration for mental health services that could happen in schools. And then we would, it also, I think, sends a message that companies, it's fine to have these products, but if it's if they're promoting unhealthy aspects of their product, they shouldn't be doing that. And hopefully it helps send that message as well. After conversing with our attorney, I do not see, and they don't see any concerns with it's a pretty low risk. There's no money that the district has to put in to participate in the lawsuit. We just have to essentially give our name, and then there's some information. There's about 10 hours worth of work that we'll have to do here in the office to provide the level of detail that we'll need for the lawsuit. So any questions, thoughts from the board members on that lawsuit?
I was kind of on the fence with this, but I think when you made the comment earlier to me when I asked you about it, sending a message is kind of what kind of tipped me this way as far as voting yes, I guess is what I want to say. But would we be able to see some of the research, or would there be a presentation?
Yeah, we could arrange for a presentation from the attorneys on that.
Okay, so would we be able to know some of their I mean, I'm not a social media user. So I guess I would just like a little bit of background on what it is that we're
Right.
looking at
So like right now, or you'd like that in as part of the
as
presentation?
part of the presentation.
Yes, we can do that.
Okay, all right.
So, okay,
Any other
any questions?
questions?
Eric?
Nope.
Okay.
Perfect. So let's take those.
Yeah.
All right, all you children in here, you've endured enough. Come up here and get your agenda signed. We'll let you go for the rest of the meeting.
It's only an hour.
I can't do it.
Oh, gosh.
Does anybody need
That's
an
important
agenda? Any students need it? I can't. They have to do it.
Good, how are you?
I'm not.
There you go.
Is this an agenda?
It doesn't matter, front or back.
Coming.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you guys for coming.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you.
You bet. Glad
Sorry,
you guys
Gina, I didn't warn you.
are not signing very nice. You bet. Oh. Yes. You bet. Thank you.
Thank you. Bet.
There you go.
Sure.
No, yeah.
You bet. Have a good night.
You too.
Thank you.
You bet. You too.
How are you doing? Huh?
You bet.
I thought I was here, but she wanted to go to the bathroom.
Oh, that.
She had to leave, sorry.
You bet.
Thank you.
I knew they were
Sounds going back
dying.
on soon.
Okay, thank you. All right.
They need to sign that.
Are those ladies keeping you hostage? They would.
Okay.
All right, let's move on to policy review.
Okay. So, the first one is policy 2700, high school graduation requirements. There have been a number of expectations from the state through part of the legislation. We're going to get some of those details in our post-legislative tour.
Okay.
So we'll add those in. But the biggest one that we had talked about this on the surface previously, but our alternative school currently has the same requirements for graduation as the regular high school in terms of number of credits. There is allowance within the state rule to allow fewer credits at an alternative program, and it's not what we're looking for is things like social studies class that they've taken somewhere else that doesn't necessarily fit what is being asked in ours. We're signing all kinds of waivers as it is. But Dr. Croft has recommended that we look at adjusting those credits. So,
Is it 4?
yeah, 4 credits, fewer for an alternative
From
school.
the, what is it, 40,
From the
48 or whatever?
48.
48, okay. What
So-
was the, sorry, go ahead.
No, you're good.
What were the 4?
Well, we've got some social studies, one of them, a PE credit is another one. And we just feel like some of these can happen better if we go, if they're at an alternative school, we want to focus more on those essential skills.
Okay,
So that's what those requirements will be. We'll have all of those details again after the post-legislative tour, which is the end of this week, but we wanted to get the first reading in, and that way we can have them done by June and get them in place for the beginning of the school year. Any questions on the high school graduation requirements?
well, Summit,
That is the senior project class.
that fulfills, it says it fulfills the senior project
Correct.
requirement. Why is it called, what's Summit?
Summit is just a name they made up the name to talk about all the things that they're trying to do. It's kind of, you've reached the summit of your educational experience.
Senior
Instead of calling it a senior project.
Okay.
It's the senior project class.
Class, okay.
Yeah,
So then we need to make a motion to move them to a second reading.
move it to a second reading, correct.
And then that civics test
Civics test is not a credit, but it is a requirement that they take it and pass it
to
to
graduate.
graduate.
Yep.
And that has to stay.
And that was,
state law.
that was back in 17,
Yep.
2017?
Yep.
Okay,
state law requires that one.
They've all left,
Okay.
somebody else left.
And then you said you've had a lot of waivers?
Yes, and so what we'll look at is addressing what those waivers have been coming in for next time.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, so I would entertain a motion to move policy 2700 and policy 27 PR 1 to second reading.
I move to move the policy of high school graduation 2700 and 2700 PR1 to a second reading.
I second
Thank you. All those in favor say aye.
it.
Aye.
Aye.
And then for school wellness, we had a second reading and we had a first reading last time. Barbara was not here. She was, what were you? She was having some travel issues there. But she is here tonight and would like to go over some of those changes that need to be made for the.
Okay.
So
Come on
if
up.
you'd like to come on up, Barbara.
Well, since Paige took so long.
If you need to walk around the room twice, go ahead.
Yeah, nobody's gonna complain about a short presentation.
Okay.
Yeah.
No.
I had asked to have the policy done, several years ago, and there was so much going on, admin-wise and all of that, that it just kind of got put away. Every year, I have to, for the State Department, I have to do a reapplication to run the program every school year. And it's 6, 7, 8 pages, whatever. Well, this last year, they dinged me that the policy hadn't been updated since 2016, which it hadn't been. And I know that when I get ready to do it again this year, they will make us redo it. Anyway, so we added the part about trimesters, because it used to be trimesters, then it went back to semesters, and now it's trimesters. And now that we don't have the coordinated health action team, I took out that section to say that the admin will assign a person, even though technically I'm not supposed to be in charge of the wellness policy. Dr. Boucher did that to me, assigned that to me many years ago. And it is when we're reviewed and then for the reapplication for the state, it has to be updated and it has to tell who's going to be in charge, who's going to track the fundraisers, whether they're exempted or non-exempted.
Gotcha.
And, as I've told many of the people, I don't want to be the wellness policy holder. Let someone in the building take care of that. Because there are, they do have forms that they can track who has an approved, the state of Idaho approved, will let each
10.
school do 10 fundraisers.
Each building or
Each
just?
building.
Oh, that's
Each
good.
building can do 10 exempted fundraisers. And then if they want to do anything more, then they have to go through the state and take care of that. So that's why I'm asking, would you please? Would you please? And so then I upload it and I put it out on the website and I get ready to do the new application packet. We'll be good to go. So.
That's what I wanted to ask this, what was the MCHAT?
That's
It was
no
the
longer-
Middleton, it was, correct, and they'd had a grant, it was the Coordinated
Mhm.
Health Action Team,
Okay,
and MCHAT was the Middleton's
Yeah.
one.
Okay.
And since Kelly Stauffer left the district, she had been the driving force behind that. And
Did it expire?
I think they just continued it because it had been going for quite a few years.
Yes,
And, they're the
I'm
ones
aware of
that they had done.
a lot of PE equipment, a lot of things, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, and they did days for staff to be able to have health assessments,
Mhm.
blood drawn, that type of stuff. They held fun runs several times during the year. So they did a lot of that stuff. And so that part of it, and because it's been kind of a strange year for us in food service, it's like, I don't remember, I don't think Kelly's been in touch with me to say, okay, what about this, this, and this? And then I realized I've been too busy in other ways to realize she hadn't been with us.
Well, that's okay. Would you recommend adopting this now?
We.
One more?
A third.
A third reading?
Because she needs it by June.
Actually, I need it by probably the end of May.
Okay.
Don't do it now.
It'd be fine to do it now.
Okay, that's kind of what I think. It's fine.
Oh, you're
There's going to
wanting
be
go?
some nutrition standard changes that we'll have to work on next year, that Congress, USDA.
So this is a yearly thing we should,
Well, not necessarily yearly, it's just they're trying to make some of our guidelines on meals stricter than what they've been.
more
But
strict than Obama, Michelle.
yes.
Sorry, I had to
See,
say
I
it.
got invited to meet Michelle and go to a thing because we did so well on everything they did. So, but yeah, they're trying to change the sodium levels even lower. I mean, the kids growl at me because I serve lunch every day, you know, and where's the salt? I can't give you any salt. But part of the issue is manufacturers are having trouble, so we're losing manufacturers that want to deal with schools. You know,
Yeah.
because the guidelines are so strict. So
Yeah.
there'll be some of those things, but it's still up for review and we don't know if they're going to do anything with it. We would love to have them leave things as they are. They want to get rid of flavored milk again. And it's like, you guys, it's low-fat flavored milk.
I think about 10 kids drink white milk. I'm sorry, they all drink chocolate milk.
As
Let's be
a,
honest.
as a district, we would not be looking to add any additional changes besides what has been tracked out in that policy.
I think we just adopted.
Yeah.
I would entertain a motion. Thank you very much. Barb.
I appreciate
Yes,
it
thank
very much.
I would entertain that motion.
Yeah.
If there's anything else,
I would make a motion that we adopt policy 3068, school loan program, as it is currently.
A second.
Thank you. All those in favor say aye.
All right.
Aye.
thank you very much.
You bet.
Now I won't get the email again.
There you go.
No,
How come, you knew this from last year, how come you haven't taken care of it?
thank you.
I've been looking at it.
All right, let's move to action items. I would entertain a motion to approve or deny the overnight yearbook trip to Idaho, to Tamarack. Idaho Journalism Conference.
I move that, we, what's the word?
Approve.
Approve, thank you. The overnight trip to Tamarack for the Idaho Journalism Conference.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor, say aye.
All right.
Aye. I would entertain a motion to approve the DECA trip or deny it.
I make a motion, we approve the DECA trip.
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor, say aye.
All right.
Aye.
Aye. I would entertain a motion to approve or deny the printer contract renewal.
Make a motion, we approve the printer contract renewal with Valley Office Systems.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor say aye.
All right.
Aye.
Aye. I would entertain a motion to approve or deny the math curriculum adoption proposal.
I make a motion that we approve the math curriculum adoption proposal.
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. I would entertain a motion to approve or deny participation in the social media lawsuit.
I'll make a motion that we go ahead and approve the participation in the social media lawsuit.
Thank you.
I'll second it if we get somebody to present to.
We'll get somebody.
Thank you. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And one more, I would entertain a motion to approve or deny the school calendar.
I make a motion that we approve the 2023-2024 calendar for next year.
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. We are adjourned. Thank you for coming.
Ta-da.
Tried to do it as fast as I could.